Good morning, students. So in the last class we were discussing about the crystal lattice, how the crystal lattice is formed, and some of the important characteristics of the crystal lattice. Along with that, we have also studied the unit cell, definition of the unit cell and type of unit cell. Basically the type is mainly on the based on the number of atoms which is present in the unit cell. We have classified that into two types. One is called as primitive unit cell and second one is called as centered unit cell. So here in this case, in centered unit cell there were three types. One is BCC, that is body centered cube. Second one is FCC and third one is ECC. FCC means a face centered cube and ECC means end centered cube. So here in this case we have also explained the total number of atoms which are present in the different types of unit cell. In primitive unit cell or in a simple cube, the total number of atoms were 1, and in case of BCC, that is body centered cubic unit cell, so that is the number of atoms are 2, and in case of face centered unit cell, the total number of atoms are 4. Further, on the basis of the properties or the 6 parameters which we have already explained, that is the distance between the axis and angle between the axis x, y as well as z. So we can classify them into 7 different types of primitive unit cell. So here I have written, so there are 7 important primitive unit cell based on the, that is edge length. You can also call it as axial distance also, and based on the axial angles, that is alpha, beta and gamma. So we can classify them into 7 primitive unit cell. In the first one is cubic, next one is tetragonal, third one is orthorhombic, fourth one is hexagonal, fifth one is rhombohedral, sixth one is monoclinic and seventh one is triclinic. So here in this case what happens, during the explanation of 7 different types of primitive unit cell, so which means any unit cell, it may be any unit cell, so we can explain the unit cell on the basis of 4 parameters. Based on 6 parameters. So these 6 parameters are edge lengths, right? So 3 of them are edge lengths, that is A, B as well as C, and the next is axial angles. We already know that. What is axial angles? So the axial angles are the angles created between the two axes x and y. We have taken it as alpha, beta and gamma, right? So these are the 6 important parameters, which means 3 edge lengths, 3 axial angles are responsible for the complete explanation of the any kind of unit cell. Unit cell is nothing but the smallest portion of the crystal lattice. Already we know that one, right? So this crystal lattice, the unit of the crystal lattice can be explained, or the simple part of the crystal lattice can be explained on the basis of 6 parameters. Out of this 6 parameters, 3 are called as edge lengths and 3 are called as axial angles. If there is a variation in case of any of the edge length, it may be A, B or C, or if it may be the variation in the any of the axial angles, alpha, beta or gamma, it will change completely the unit cells, which means one unit cell can be converted into another unit cell by changing any one of the parameter. It may be within the edge length or it may be within the axial angles. So here, so there are 7 primitive unit cells as I have explained here: cubic, tetragonal, orthorhombic, hexagonal, rhombohedral, monoclinic as well as triclinic, right? So here, whenever you call any cube as a cubic, if you want to call this unit cell as a cubic crystal system, it must satisfy two phenomena. One is its axial angles or edge lengths. All the 3 edge lengths must be equal. That is, A must be equal to B must be equal to C. So here, if you observe in this unit cell, if I want to call this as an cubic, means this edge length A must be equal to B and it must be equal to C. Which means, according to cubic, if it is cubic unit cell, so the edge length A must be equal to edge length B, that must be equal to edge length C. Similarly, axial angles, the angle between A and B is alpha, angle between B and C is called as beta, and angle between C and A is called as gamma. These all the 3 angles must be perpendicular to each other, which means they must be 90 degree. That is, alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma, which must be equal to 90 degree. If this cube or this unit cell satisfies these two conditions exactly, then only it is called as cubic, right? So therefore, like this, on the basis of edge lengths as well as axial angles, we can classify the unit cell into 7 primitive unit cells. In that, first one is cubic, in which the axial or distance or edge length can be given as A is equal to B is equal to C, and axial angles can be given as alpha is equal to beta is equal to 90 degree, gamma is equal to 90 degree. And in case of tetragonal, what happens? See here, in the second case, in tetragonal, what happens? Two edge lengths are same, one edge length is different, which means here A and B are having the same length, but C has extended. C has extended, which means in case of tetragonal, what happens? A is equal to B, which means A and B edge lengths are same, but C is having the less or more, right? So it may be less, right? Or it may be more, like this, right? So it may be lesser than A and B, or it may be more than A and B, which is not equal to C, which means A and B are same, but C is not equal to A and B. And again, the angles are same. Alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma, that is equal to 90 degree, right? So then that kind of unit cell is called as a tetragonal unit cell. Third one is, it is called as orthorhombic. So in orthorhombic, what happens? A is not equal to B is not equal to C, which means all the edge lengths are different. So here if you observe, so here edge length, one is 5 centimeter, one is 6 centimeter, one is 7 centimeter, means all the values are different. Here A is not equal to B is not equal to C. So therefore, in orthorhombic, what happens? All the edge lengths are different. A is not equal to B, B is not equal to C, but all the axes, that is axial angles, are same again. All are perpendicular to each other, that is alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma is equal to 90 degree, right? So these are 3 important primitive unit cells. Further there are again 4, total there are 7 primitive unit cells. Just remember, cubic, A is equal to B is equal to C, which means all the axial distances or edge lengths are same, but there is an even the axial angles also same, alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma. But in case of tetragonal, what happens? So two axial edge lengths, axial distance or edge lengths are same, but one distance is, it may be shorter or it may be greater, that is change in the value of one edge length. So therefore two edge lengths are same, A is equal to B, but B is not equal to C. And the axial angles are again same, alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma, that is equal to 90 degree, which means all are perpendicular to each other. In case of orthorhombic, what happens? A is not equal to B is not equal to C, which means there is a different edge lengths for all the axes, even x-axis, y-axis and z-axis, but the axial angles are same, alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma, that is equal to 90 degree. So in the similarly, in case of hexagonal, what happens? Two edge lengths are same, A is equal to B, but it is not equal to C, right? So B is not equal to C. Here observe, the two angles are same, alpha beta are perpendicular to each other, but gamma is 120 degree. But gamma is 120 degree, right? So here I will draw some rough work here. So if we take an hexagonal, so this is hexagon, alright? So it looks like a hexagon. So it is connected here like this, almost similar to the cylinder, right? So like this connected. Here the two edge lengths are same, x-axis, y-axis are same, but this angle is different, right? So one angle is 120 degree, this angle is 120 degree. These two are perpendicular, right? So one angle is 90, another angle is 120 degree. So therefore we have given here alpha and beta are 90 degree, but gamma is 120 degree. There is a change in the angle, axial angle of the third one. So therefore in hexagonal, two edge lengths are same, one edge length is different, that is A is equal to B is equal to C. Here if you observe, these two are same, this is same and this is same, but this is different, this length is different. So therefore A is equal to B, but it is not equal to C. And alpha and beta are is equal to 90 degree, but gamma is 120 degree. It has increased, right? So this angle has increased. These two angles are perpendicular to each other. This is 90 degree, but this is 120 degree. Therefore gamma is equal to 120 degree. In case of hexagonal, A is equal to B, but B is not equal to C. So and axial angles, alpha is equal to beta is equal to 90 degree and gamma is equal to 120 degree. And fifth one is rhombohedral. In case of rhombohedral, what happens? All the edge lengths are same. Edge lengths are same, but axial angles are different, they are not perpendicular to each other, right? So A is equal to B is equal to C, but alpha, beta and gamma are not equal to 90 degree. All are not perpendicular to each other. Sixth one, monoclinic. In monoclinic, what happens? The axial distance or edge length of this unit cell, that is A is not equal to B is not equal to C, which means even A is different, B is different, C is different, which is almost similar to the orthorhombic. In case of axial distance, whenever you compare orthorhombic and monoclinic, both are same. Here also A is not equal to B is not equal to C. Similarly, in monoclinic also A is not equal to B is not equal to C. But there is an difference in the axial angle. In case of orthorhombic, what happens? All are 90 degree. Alpha, beta and gamma, all axial angles are 90 degree. But here in this case, alpha and gamma are 90 degree. Observe here alpha and gamma are 90 degree, but beta is not equal to 90 degree, which means two are perpendicular to each other, first and third, and the second one is not perpendicular to A as well as B, and it may be greater than 90 or it may be lesser than 90, so therefore beta is not equal to 90 degree. So here in case of triclinic, last one, so all the axial angles are different, all the axial edge lengths are also different. Here edge lengths A is not equal to B is not equal to C. Similarly, axial angles also, alpha is not equal to, beta is not equal to, gamma is not equal to 90 degree, which means all are different and they are also not equal to 90 degree, which means they are neither parallel to each other and they are neither perpendicular to each other nor they are equal to each other, right? So whenever you compare cubic as well as triclinic, both are deadly opposite. Here all are same, A is equal to B is equal to C, as well as axial angles also same, alpha, beta and gamma equal to 90 degree. But in case of triclinic, what happens? A is not equal to B is not equal to C, and axial angles, alpha is not equal to, beta is not equal to gamma, and which is obviously not equal to 90 degree, right? So this is very important in the classification of primitive unit cell. There are 7 primitive unit cell. One is a cubic, tetragonal, orthorhombic, hexagonal, rhomboedral, monoclinic and triclinic. This classification is completely based on the edge length of the unit cell as well as axial angles of the unit cell. So after the completion of different types of primitive unit cell, there is one more important concept that is called as coordination number. So here if you observe, coordination number is defined as the number of nearest neighboring atoms. So if you take any crystal lattice or if you take any unit cell, in unit cell there is a continuous arrangement of atoms. So here if I draw, we'll do a bit of rough work here. So for your assumption, what we'll do, whenever we take a unit cell, right? So if you assume this as an unit cell, so we draw the atoms at the corner. Right? So here this represents the unit cell. But in practicality, what happens? The arrangement of atoms in a unit cell is closely packed. The atoms will be like this, which means there is no more space like this, right? So here backside also like this, which means this is for your clearer understanding. We will draw like this. It is having the atom at the corner, but this distance between the atoms, right? So that will be very negligible. In practicality, it looks like this. There is no any kind of the area between these two atoms. So therefore, it is closely packed. So for our understanding, we will draw like this. But in originality, the arrangement of atoms is like this. Continuously, they are connected to one another in all directions. They are connected to one another in all directions. So in this or during this method, what happens? Whenever there is an close packed or continuous arrangement of atom, so this is generally called as coordination number. Coordination number means the number of nearest or neighboring atoms. It is the total number of nearest neighboring atoms in an unit cell, or if you take any material, that is called as coordination number. So here, if I take this atom, if I consider this atom as a, right? So here, the nearest neighboring atom, which which means the atoms which are connected to the reference atom. Here if you take this as a reference atom, it is connected to this atom and it is connected to this atom, right? So which means the number of nearest neighboring atoms are 2 for A. This is one dimensional, this is only one axis, it is only in x axis. Whenever the atoms are arranged only in one axis, the coordination number of any atom will be 2, because the nearest neighboring, if you take this atom, right, so this is having this one near and this is neighboring, right? So if you consider this atom, there will be one more atom here. It is a continuous process, right? So only in one direction or only in one axis, the coordination number will be always equal to 2. So therefore remember, coordination number is nothing but the number of nearest neighboring atoms in an crystal lattice or in an unit cell is called as coordination number, right? So similarly I have drawn here the same diagram. So if you take this one dimensional diagram, so if you take any atom, if you consider any atom, if you consider the edged or end atom also, along with that there will be one more atom here. It is a continuation process. So if you take any atom in an one direction, then what happens? The nearest neighboring atoms will be only 2. This is called as coordination number 2 in case of x-axis. So they may ask for 1 mark. Define coordination number. Coordination number is nothing but it is the total number of nearest neighboring atoms in a unit cell or in a crystal lattice. So further if we classify, there are 2 types. That is square close packing. Second one is hexagonal close packing, right? So there are 2 types of arrangement of atoms. One is called as square close packing and second one is called as hexagonal close packing. So here in this case, we'll do a bit of rough work here. So in the classification of the arrangement of atoms, so here if I take first one, that is square close packing. So in case of square close packing, what happens? If there is an continuous arrangement of atoms like this, so one after the another, there is a regular arrangement of atom, right? So here what happens? If you consider any of the atom, right? So if I consider this A, right? So this atom, it is connected to this atom. It is directly connected to this atom, it is direct in contact with this atom and it is in direct contact with this atom. So if I draw this with a straight line, it looks like a square, right? So during this arrangement what happens, if you take any atom, if I take this atom A, it is connected to this one, right? So it is connected to this one and this one, right? So again it looks like a square, right? So whenever there is a continuous arrangement of atoms of the same type, then that type of packing is called as square close packing. And in case of second one, that is hexagonal close packing. In case of hexagonal close packing, what happens? The arrangement will be of AB type. Right, so the arrangement will be like this. If you take atom A here, it is connected with this atom, this atom, this atom, this atom, this atom, and as well as the last atom. Right, so whenever you draw with a straight line, it looks like an hexagonal arrangement. Right, so if you take this atom B, so it is connected to these atoms like this. Right? So this is the major difference between the square close packing as well as hexagonal close packing. Remember, so in case of square close packing, what happens? If you take any reference atom, here the atom A, it is connected with 4 atoms. So therefore the coordination number in square close packing is 4 and the coordination number is 6 in case of hexagon. Remember, hexagon means 6, right? So the hexagonal close packing, the number of nearest neighboring atoms are called as coordination number and the coordination number is 6 in case of hexagon. In case of square packing, what happens? Here the coordination number is 4. Remember, here there is a continuous same kind of arrangement in x-axis also and even in y-axis also. But here there is an different arrangement. In x-axis the atoms are different. In y-axis the atoms are different. Here there is a missing. It is in between 2 atoms. So hence it is converted into hexagonal. Therefore, in case of square close packing, what happens? The coordination number will be exactly equal to 4 and in case of hexagonal close packing, the coordination number will be exactly equal to 6. Remember, but it is when it is in unidirection. If it is in only one axis, if you take any atom A, its coordination number is 2 because it is nearer to the only 2 atoms, or nearest neighboring atoms will be 2. Therefore, in linear what happens, the coordination number will be 2. In square close packing what happens, during the arrangement of atoms, the coordination number will be equal to 4. And in case of hexagonal close packing, the coordination number will be is equal to 6. The next important definition is voids. So voids are nothing but the empty spaces. Voids are nothing but the empty spaces present in between. So it is the empty space present in between the arrangement of atoms or particles. Right, so it is the empty space present between the arrangement of atoms or particles. So here, if I draw, so this is an arrangement of atom. Right, so this is an arrangement of atom. So here in between arrangement of atom, there will be an empty space, right? So this is the empty space, and this is called as void. It is called as void. If there is an same x-axis and y-axis are having same arrangement of atom, and this is called as square close packing. In square close packing, this void looks like this. Whenever there is a square close packing, this diagram. Whenever there is a square close packing, the void looks like this, right? So it looks like this, right? But during the hexagonal arrangement, observe here, like this. Right, so this is the hexagonal arrangement. In hexagonal arrangement, this empty space is called as void. Here, this empty space, it looks like this. Right, so there is a greater difference here. In this case, it looks like a triangular in case of hexagonal. So in case of hexagonal arrangement, it looks like a triangular. Right, so in case of a square close packing, it looks like a square. Remember, this is very important. Void is nothing but the empty space present between the arrangement of atoms. If there is any 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional arrangement of atoms, in that the empty space, here you can observe lot amount of empty space here, right? So this is the empty space, this is the empty space, right? So this is also an empty space, right? So here, in this case, in closed packed structure, the empty space which is present between the atoms or within the arrangement of particles, that is called as void. In case of square close packing, so the empty space or void looks like a square. And in case of hexagonal close packing, what happens? The empty space looks like a triangular. Right, so this is the some of the important information regarding with the different types of primitive unit cell, that is 7 different primitive unit cell, along with the square close packing as well as hexagonal close packing. So the next important concept is packing efficiency. The next important concept is packing efficiency. Right? So there is a definition. So packing efficiency is nothing but the percentage of total space filled by the particles. It is defined as, I will write the definition here. It is defined as percentage of total space filled by particles. Right, so it is the percentage of total space filled by the particles, and there is a formula for packing efficiency, that is packing efficiency is equal to volume occupied by total number of spheres in a unit cell, within the unit cell, divided by total volume of unit cell. total volume of unit cell. Right? So the volume occupied by the total number of spheres in a unit cell divided by total volume of the unit cell into 100%, because we need in case of percentage. So therefore we will multiply it with the 100%, right? So this is called as packing efficiency. So very simple. Packing efficiency is nothing but it is defined as the percentage of total space filled by the particles. So if you take any container, initially the container will be empty. So if you go on adding the materials, what happens? The container starts to fill. Initially the container was empty. Whenever you add some kind of materials or some atoms, the space in the container will start to fill. So that is what the area covered by the atoms. Suppose if you take this example, this cover, right? So this cover or this tray is empty now, right? So this is called as empty space. But we need packing efficiency. Packing efficiency means what happens? Whenever you go on adding here the atoms, what happens? Whenever you go on adding the atoms here, so the space between the atoms will start to fill. The state between the area between the atoms will start to fill. Whenever the area between atom completely fills, and we can calculate what is the exact area covered by these materials. What is the exact area covered by these materials within this unit cell or within this specified area is called as packing efficiency. Therefore, it is defined as very simple. It is defined as percentage of total space filled by the particles, and there is a formula, that is packing efficiency is equal to volume occupied by the total number of spheres in the unit cell, which is nothing but the volume occupied by total number of here we have taken the pens, right? So the volume occupied by all the colored pens here. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So there are 7 sketch pens here. So in this, the total area occupied by these 7 sketches is called as packing efficiency, right? So the total area covered by these atoms, if you consider these sketches as atoms, so this as a unit cell, in this complete unit cell, so this each sketch pen is contributing a certain area. So therefore this area is divided by the total area of all these sketches, and when you remove this, you will get the empty area. This empty area is called as total volume of the unit cell. Whenever you divide these two values, we will get the what is the total filled area, and that filled area is called as packing efficiency, right? So this is very simple. Write down these definitions as well as formulas. We'll continue in the next class. Thanks for joining.